Hello, everyone. This is Rajith, and I'm with One Illumined Heart. Today, we are blessed to have a wonderful doctor here, Dr. Joiner Bey. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And Dr. Bey is a naturopathic physician who is retired. How about if you tell us a little bit about your background?
I have the undergraduate degree in physics from Johns Hopkins University, a doctor of naturopathic medicine from Bastyr University, and did some also some advanced work in homeopathic practice. I was working with HIV/AIDS here in Seattle area for about 6 years, and worked as an STD clinician in Honolulu for several years. And for 30 years, I was worked as an educator in the health food industry, educating retail staff and the general public on the issues of nutrition, botanical medicine, that kind of thing. So I've done a lot of work to actually bring information the public can use down to a level where they can understand it, appreciate, and apply it for their own health benefits.
That's fabulous. You've got a big, strong history of knowing what to do to help people get well.
I do the best I can.
Good. So, one of the reasons I've invited Dr. Joiner Bey to be with us today is that we are in the middle of the COVID-19 epidemic around the world. And one of the things that I've noticed since this began, which was perturbed me a little bit, was that there in the media, nowhere except for in alternative media, does anyone talk about how to help the common person bring their immune system up. How do they stay healthy? How can we avoid, you know, getting this particular flu? What can we do to help increase our immune system? What can we do to help our children increase their immune system? So that's why I've invited you so that you can share your vast amount of knowledge and experience in this field to help educate people what are some of the practical things that they can do to keep themselves healthy.
There's a lot to talk about. The information we're going to be talking about is right from the textbook of natural medicine, edited by Dr. Joe Pizzorno and Dr. Michael Murray. In fact, Dr. Michael Murray wrote this chapter on supporting the immune systems, and this has been around for a long time, the basic concepts here. So all of us in naturopathic medicine know about what I'm going to discuss, and this is something we want the general public to be aware of. Now, one thing that should be said, there's no guarantee here that you're not coming down with some disease. All we're trying to do is, as best we can, reduce your risk. So if you're exposed to something, you'll have minimal adverse response to it, and minimal possibility of coming to some undesirable consequence. So that's what we're going to do. Simply support the immune system as best we can and keep you as immune strong as under these difficult circumstances.
Awesome. So, how about if we begin with like what are the kinds of things people do that hurt their immune system?
Right, the things we need to avoid, the things that are harmful to the human body, things like excess use of alcohol, smoking, living a sedentary lifestyle, obesity, failing to exercise, eating the wrong kinds of foods, failing to eat a wide range of whole organic plant foods. My mantra: whole organic plant foods of a wide range that will give your immune system kind of the nutritional support it needs to function, especially under these difficult circumstances. So all these factors play a major role. Getting regular exercise, deep breathing, keeping a positive mental attitude, all these things go a long way in helping us to preserve our immune wellness. So these are things that people need to be doing, and unfortunately, up until now, because of the stressful lives we've been living, people have been very inattentive to these kinds of issues in their lives.
Right, and I also want to add one thing, and that is if you look at the standard American diet, also known as the
Sad
SAD
diet,
diet.
yes. Standard American diet, sad, very sad.
A lot of people they do a lot of soda pop.
Oh God,
They
yes.
do a lot of alcohol. They do a lot of chips. They do a lot of processed food. They're not making their food at home, and they're taking in way too many unhealthy fats, and then they wonder why they're sick.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, sick and tired of being sick and tired and not knowing why they're sick to begin with.
Exactly.
And this is the reason.
Right. So, what about sleep?
This is a big issue. I mean, there was a study that came out years ago. It was on National Public Radio. This guy had actually done a study, and he felt that one of the major contributors to modern ill health was the electric light. Because think about it, up until the electric light, people only had candles to work with after dark, and they only like worked a couple hours, and they clearly got to bed early. They got, as Ben Franklin said, early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. So that's what our ancient ancestors did. They got to bed early, so they could get up early. And it's been said, and I should follow this myself. The more hours of sleep you get before midnight, the healthier you'll be, because you want the melatonin levels to be at their peak around midnight. And the earlier you get to bed before midnight, the higher the melatonin level will get by midnight. So you'll get the deep, refreshing REM sleep that people are requiring.
So you're saying melatonin is a factor then of
Melatonin is a major
healthy
factor
sleep.
because these lights cause the melatonin not to be produced by the pineal gland. So you have to get those lights out of the way, go get a person in darkness, and then the body can gradually increase production of melatonin. But with the lights being used until late in the evening, you're starting off like 11 o'clock midnight after being exposed to bright light. The melatonin doesn't reach its peak till like 3 in the morning, and then you're going to be getting up at 6 or 7.
Right.
So you see what the problem is. You want melatonin as high as early in the evening as possible, so you get a nice refreshing sleep. And if you do have to get up early, you've had plenty of sleep with melatonin influence, so you will are awakened, relaxed, and refreshed. But all this stress can actually suppress the immune system. We know that sleep deprivation is a form of torture.
Right.
It is used as torture.
They have done that with prisoners all over the
Right,
world.
and
Yes.
there's a brilliant female researcher did all the research on sleep and the adverse effects of sleep deprivation. I mean, increasing obesity because you have this increased desire to eat starchy foods, carbohydrates, and so forth, and on and on. It suppresses all kinds of normal functioning just by being sleep deprived. So this is a very important issue. This whole issue of having kids go to school at 9 o'clock in the morning, get to bed earlier.
Right.
Yes, get the kids to bed earlier. But with our computer screens and our wonderful HD TVs, we've got too much excitement and distraction around us.
Exactly. And now and I know that some people say that the blue screen on the computer is also problematic, isn't it?
Extremely problematic because it can damage the retina of the eyes. We know for a fact that blue light has a damaging effect. In fact, I give a whole presentation on this. What you should do is put your computers on night mode. You should go right to the control panel, put it on night mode. That turns off the blue and gives it more softer color. It's not as harsh. And that also minimizes your exposure to the blue light coming out of the computer screen or coming off of your HD TVs. You actually turn off that blue effect. It protects the retina of the eyes and also reduces the destruction of melatonin if you're looking at a computer screen or a TV screen late in the evening.
Boy, that's really good news. And so the same thing would be on the cell phone, would be to put it on night
Absolutely.
mode.
Absolutely.
Okay. Sounds awesome. Okay, so let's go into people's nutritional status, their lifestyle. What kind of things depress the immune function of the body?
All kinds of things depress the immune function of the body. One of my, well, I shouldn't say my favorite, one of the most important ones is sugar. The first one I think about, because sugar and vitamin C, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, working in opposite directions from each other. So the tendency of people to eat too much refined sugars, refined starches, and so forth, increases blood sugar levels unnecessarily and causes all kinds of harm for the white blood cells. The white blood cells can't do well in a very sugary environment. They do much better with a moderate amount of the sugar available, but the vitamin C has to be there. Vitamin C and glucose compete for the same receptor sites in cell membranes. So excess sugar
for the same receptor sites.
Yes, because they're structured the same.
I see.
As I mentioned before, almost all mammals are able to convert glucose, blood sugar, into vitamin C, ascorbate. But human beings and guinea pigs and a few others can't do it. And that's why we depend on food intake of vitamin C for our vitamin C nutriture. It takes 4 enzymes to make that conversion. We're missing just one of them. That's why we have to take the vitamin C.
From food source.
From food sources, right. And supplements to work well with us and to keep things functioning. Almost any micronutrient deficiency can suppress the immune system. We're going to talk about some main ones here, but almost any micronutrient deficiency has been linked in some form or fashion to a disruption of normal immune function. The immune system is like any other complex tissue or organ system. It requires a wide range of nutrients to get the job done. Therefore, wide range of nutrients are necessary to keep the enzymes running, keep the system running optimally. There are a few key ones we're going to talk about here, but If a person's not taking in a wide range of micronutrients and food factors from a whole organic plant food diet with brilliant colors on your dinner plate, and the basic like dark orange you find in carrots, in sweet potatoes, in yams, in apricots, those kinds of, that's what you want to see your dinner plate. You want to see the dark red of beets. You want to see the dark green of the dark green leaves like kale and collard greens and so forth. That's what you want to see. And even your desserts should be rich in things like berries and so forth. I hate to sound like someone harping on a soapbox here, but this is what people need to be focusing on. There was a book written years ago called Rainbow Eating. This is what will help you support the immune system and every other tissue in your body.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So, and one of the reasons that we really need to focus on this also is because our soils are so depleted, right?
This is the issue. With commercialized agriculture, we're not doing what we need to replenish the soil that gives us the nutrients in our plant foods. I have a cousin, Dr. Owusu Bandele, who's retired professor emeritus of horticulture at Southern University, and he was a champion of organic gardening and farming. For 5 years, he was on the Organic Standards Board of the advising U.S. Department of Agriculture. And what you have to go through to maintain those standards of to call something organic, certain things must be done to ensure the protection of the consumer. And this soil issue is a very important one to me because that's the foundation for everything. We take the soil for granted, but you must never do that.
Right, and the microorganisms that are in the soil is what helps to make our foods rich.
The microorganisms, the worms, all those things there that deposit their material that is used as a fertilizer for the plants. On the mineral nutrition, I met this wonderful Australian rancher named Ewan Campbell is his name. He's from the North Island of New Zealand. He was an Australian New Zealander. And he grows cattle and sheep. And he found that by providing a certain kind of mineral fertilizer, he was able to set up these microcurrents because you have multiple minerals in a fertilizer, even in your mouth. It's just a microcurrents between the minerals. Those
microcurrents?
Microcurrents. They're small currents of electricity. These microcurrents actually stimulate the roots such that you actually increase the desirable omega-3 compounds inside the plants, inside the grass and the clover. Can you believe that?
Holy smokes.
Yes. And I met him at the Health Food Trade Show in Anaheim, and the following year, I met a soil expert, and he confirmed what Mr. Campbell was saying. It's absolutely true. So by having the right mineral replenishment of the soil, as well as decaying organic matter from composted plant material, composted manures from cows and sheep and horses and so forth, we can go a long way replenishing the soil and keep making sure that the minerals there that we need, like selenium, which we're going to talk about, and other things to keep us going and supporting our immune system. The whole thing is very logical. If you're taking things out of the soil by growing crops on the soil, those things must be replenished continuously.
Right.
It's a very straightforward concept.
So awesome. Okay. So then I have another question, and that is, there's a controversy out there about how much water people should be drinking a day.
I did a lot of work on water. I wrote a book on water.
You wrote a book on water.
Yes.
What is it called so we can look it up?
Water, the key to youth, health, and beauty.
Water, the key to
health, youth, and beauty.
Health, youth, and beauty.
Co-authored with Bill Holloway, the guy who invented Panther water.
Oh, okay, great.
But anyway, the point is going to make it. The basic rule of thumb that works all the time is 1 8-ounce cup of water every waking hour. If you drank an 8-ounce cup of water every waking hour, you would keep everything flushed very nicely, be thoroughly hydrated. So it's an 8-ounce cup, drink an 8-ounce cup of water every hour. That's all you have to do. It's very simple. If you want to drink it in the form of tea, but don't drink things that are going to be diuretic, like coffee and tea that will cause you to urinate away. You want things, pure water is preferable.
Right.
Okay. And that is the way to get in. It's just a simple 1 8-ounce cup, a little cup of water every waking hour, keep you thoroughly hydrated. And something the elderly must know. You cannot trust your sense of thirst because as you get older, your sense of thirst is less reliable. And they've done the studies. When you exercise, elderly men and younger men, the younger men will rehydrate more efficiently than the elderly men because they can't. The sense of thirst is not sensitive in elderly men. They don't rehydrate.
The same is true for women, right?
Yeah, same is true for women.
Right.
It's not just on men, but in this case, it applies to everyone across the board.
Wow. Okay.
That's something people should know.
So then, in a healthy eating plan, you talked about natural organic foods, but what about like there's a controversy about what kind, protein. How much protein do we need? And what one thing that I've learned studying something about foods through Dr. Furman's Nutritarian diet
Mm-hmm.
program, where I was astonished to find out how, like in a cup of broccoli and in a cup of romaine, there were between 9 and 11 grams of protein.
Yes, the
And
question is a protein appropriate for human needs? I go back, and I want to give credit to this woman who's been a champion, Frances Moore LePay.
oh yes, right.
Diet for a Small
Diet for a
Planet.
Small Planet.
Her
Right.
ex-husband, Mark LePay, was my professor of pathology at the Pacific College of Naturopathic Medicine way back in school year 81, 82.
Mm-hmm.
Small world, isn't it?
Yes.
The woman whose work I greatly admired and who's changed my dietary habits for years, her ex-husband was my pathology instructor. But it's just like it's a small world. But she led that field. She wrote a book called Food First back in the late 70s about the issue of arable land, how it's being misused for cash crops and not used for crops that can be used to feed people around the world. We're still having the same problem today.
Right.
It's the same issue. So the basic idea is that if we're eating a diet that's based on plant foods, we'll more efficiently use the land that is available. It takes acres and acres of land to just support one livestock animal.
Right.
And believe me, I love animal foods as much as anybody. I mean, I love steaks and chicken, and so I love all that stuff. But from a health standpoint and many other standpoints, it makes sense to switch over to more of a vegan or vegetarian diet. I was just discussing with Rajith this wonderful documentary that's available on Netflix called
Right.
The Game Changers.
Yes.
This is produced by a guy who was, he's actually a martial artist. He was a cage fighter. And also now he's trained military people in self-defense, martial arts self-defense and that kind of thing, hand-to-hand combat. But because of his health issues, he got into an exploration of the possibilities of vegetarian and vegan diets for elite athletes, and was amazed that the athletes are doing it. I mean, football players, track and field, weightlifters.
Weightlifter guy, he was amazing.
The strongest man in the world is a vegan. Can you believe that?
Yeah. What was it?
1,200
pounds.
That's the weight of a horse he can carry on his shoulders and move at 33 feet.
That was, I saw the movie. I was just absolutely dumbstruck.
And he's a vegan.
Yeah.
And even Arnold Schwarzenegger switched over.
Has switched over,
I mean,
yes.
a champion bodybuilder, he was eating all kinds of steaks and to build up. He realized that wasn't
Ate eggs for breakfast.
Yes,
yes,
that's not the intelligent way to go.
Yeah.
It's not the intelligent way to go. The human body was designed for plant foods. We were designed to be foragers of food, mainly plant foods, and opportunistic hunters as opportunities came along, but mainly plant foods. That's why our teeth are built the way they are. And that's why we can digest foods in a way that's plant foods more easily than carnivores can. So we're built for this kind of eating, and the body responds well to it. So that's what we need to do to support the immune system.
Right.
Protein is necessary, but we tend to think we need more protein than we actually do. I mean, even eating meat, I mean, you don't need any more than something the size of a deck of cards.
What they say, deck of cards, and around the size of your palm of your hand, right?
Once a day, that's all you need, and that can be in the form of plant protein, like beans and so forth. So, and the point that Frances Moore LePay made years ago, and it's still quite valid, is you want to combine a range of sources of proteins to give you the balance of amino acids. For example, beans with whole grains, with nuts and seeds and that kind of thing. Eating the wide range of these, you'll get through the day the full range of amino acids that will cover all the 8 essential amino acids, and you'll be just fine.
Right. Okay. Wow. And one of the things that impressed me in the movie The Game Changer was when they did all the blood levels for cholesterol, the white blood counts, the red blood counts, their blood sugar levels, it was
all
totally
this
amazing.
In elite athletes.
And so they had all the data that they showed, so it confirmed that this was not some hype.
Right.
This was based on factual information, on testing people when they ate meat foods, when they ate vegetarian foods, what the difference was in their bodies, and it was astounding.
The only diet system that's actually proven to reverse atherosclerotic plaque is that plant-based diet system. It was first designed by Nathan Pritikin back in the 80s.
I remember that.
And
yeah.
then Dean Ornish took it over and actually proved it with scientific research. But it was the Nathan Pritikin Dean Ornish diet, which is a plant-based diet. It was the only one to this day it's been proven to actually reverse atherosclerotic plaque in human beings. The only one.
Wow, that's amazing.
So it supports the immune system the way it supports the cardiovascular system, because this sets up an environment that allows the white blood cell to thrive and makes it difficult for microbes to take over the body.
And that's the thing, is we want to keep the microbe levels down.
And you want to keep to keep the body in such a state of vitality. The microbes have difficulty taking over. It's easy to take over a body that's beaten down by nutritional deficiency and poor sleep habits. Mm-hmm. It's much more difficult when the person has been every day vitalized and rejuvenated with the right kind of nutrition and the right kind of lifestyle choices. That's a much more difficult body for microbes to take over.
Right. Okay, so what about the immunosupportive habits? You said exercise was important, deep breathing.
Exercise, deep breathing, keeping the blood flowing and so forth. A positive mental attitude. We know for a fact, and this is straight out of the wonderful work by Dr. Candace Pert. She was the head of the Brain Bioresearch Division of the NIH, and then she's now a professor at Georgetown University. But she's the pioneering research on neurotransmitters and the relationship between emotional states and neurotransmitters dumped in the bloodstream. And we know that every emotional state has an array of neurotransmitters, and they can either support the immune system or suppress
it.
Right. Mm. So negative moods, negative attitudes suppress immune function. That's why positive mental attitude is so important for the immune system to function optimally.
Right. And then the other thing is, I know that this is a time now for the last 30, 40 years, people have been more mainstream in understanding the power of the impact of meditation.
Yes.
On their well-being, the power of their prayer, and it doesn't matter what religion they come from; it has the same impact. Power of chanting. What has your experience been with that?
I've done a lot of work with this. I don't want to get into anything that sounds too woo-woo, but I've been involved in certain kinds of spiritual healings and so forth. It is enormously powerful for people to do these kinds of things. I mean, when you change mental attitude with the right kind of psychological and spiritual inputs, you change everything. I mean, the classic example is Norman Cousins, the guy who was the editor of Look magazine, who had some serious illness. He laughed his way into a better health.
Right.
When he's watching all those the funny movies and comedy and so forth, he laughed his way by changing the mental attitude. The one thing that meditation does, it takes you out of everyday thinking. So you become much more relaxed and all your problems like melt away. That puts you in a state where the body can heal itself on so many levels. It's extremely important. I mean, you and I are long-time meditators, so we know the benefits of that.
Right.
It takes you out of ordinary thinking, and it's the ordinary thinking that has gotten us into the problems that we're living with. Right. That great quotation from Albert Einstein. He said, "My current way of thinking has gotten me into a situation that my current way of thinking cannot get me out of." I have to change the way I'm thinking.
Yeah.
You have to change your state, and that's what meditation does. It puts you in a state that allows the body to heal on so many levels.
Right. I remember when the Beatles were very popular, and they went to India and they learned transcendental meditation.
Yes.
And then Stanford University took that on and did all these studies. And I remember my dad, I was in my early 20s, calling me, "I have just," and he was super conservative, and he was a researcher and a reader, and he calls me all excited about having learned about these studies at Stanford, and that 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening of transcendental meditation was shifting his life, and he was excited, and he wanted me to please join him and do what was smart. And I just, we actually, my husband and I ended up learning transcendental meditation for a while, and then we moved on to another form, but it absolutely did make a difference.
I started there too, with TM.
And I remember when I was going to college at the time, and my grades, it was easier to learn, my grades went up, my ability to focus, I mean, it made a gigantic difference. I was shocked.
Funny you should say that. I mean, I've worked, I'm a graduate of Landmark Education, went through the whole curriculum for living, the Landmark Forum, the post-forum seminars, the advanced course, and the Self-Expression Leadership Program. and I've seen the kind of benefit this thing can have on even people in prison settings. There's a wonderful woman I knew from the advanced course named Joy. Joy was for years a psychiatric nurse, and every Wednesday evening she would drive over to Monroe, where the Washington State Reformatory is. It's the most progressive of the state prisons, and she would put on a program there for men who are there for life. These are murderers and so forth.
Yeah.
And she would express the distinctions of the landmark forum, plus the kind of practices that are done in other prisons where people are engaging in meditation and Buddhist Zen, Zazen meditation,
Right.
and the amazing changes that are happening in these men. When you change the state, everything changes. I met one guy in that group. He had been in solitary confinement for 18 months.
Oh.
18 months, he came out a different person. That will make you or break you. 18 months in solitary confinement, he came out
That's
a
just
better
plain
person.
cruel.
But he was acting up. He was violent with other inmates. They had to put him somewhere, and that's what happens. But he was there for 18 months, and he came out a changed person.
Well, God bless that experience.
Right, he came out a changed person.
Holy
This
smokes.
stuff, it's absolutely extraordinary what can happen here. So, I could go into other things about essential fatty acids and prison behavior and that kind of thing, but that's another discussion.
Right. Okay, and of course we also know that on the web there's all kinds of meditation practices available. People are interested in trying to look that up, and they can find their own way. Okay, so regarding what creates a depressed immune system, what are the common causes of that?
Poor nutritional habits, poor lifestyle habits, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, nutritional deficiencies, inadequate sleep, other poor lifestyle choices, and that kind of thing. All that can contribute to poor immune function. I mean, the excess use of sugar, you name it. Any one of those things have an adverse effect on immune function.
Right, and then also people who are not being careful about eating organic foods. If you have foods that have been sprayed with glyphosates and other pesticides,
or things that pretend to be foods and actually aren't.
Right.
All the junky stuff that people live on, things they slap into a microwave for a quick bite to eat.
Yeah.
You must. I mean, the quality is absolutely essential here. You can't get something for nothing. If you want to have vital, dynamic living tissue, those living tissues need the nutrients that keep them going. And so don't shortchange your tissues by doing something on the cheap or doing something on the fly. I hate this. There's a great restaurant here, especially in organic food. It's the Porter's Bay Cafe, and they have a motto. It's on the back. Yes, Porter's Bay Cafe.
Porter's Bay Cafe.
Yes, the first one in the University District, and the other one's now at South of Union. And they have a motto on the back of their menus. The motto is, "Eat like you give a damn."
That is great.
Eat like you care about your cells.
Right.
You have to care about the trillions of cells in your body. Everyone is a parent. Even if you don't have children, you are the parent to your 12 billion or trillion cells in your body. What kind of a parent are you? You want your cells to perform. Give them what they need. It's a very simple thing. I've been studying nutrition now for 42 years. The basic concepts are the same. We're just getting a little refined about it, but the basic concept, you take care of the cells the way they need to be taken care of, they'll take care of you.
Right.
But it seems people have such difficulty doing that. Yeah. It's not hard.
Yeah.
Just attend to the needs of your cells.
Yeah.
And you build your lifestyle around that.
Well, you're a testament to it because you're over 70 and you're in amazing health. Yes?
I practice what I preach.
Yes, you do. Thank God. Okay. And then what about the elderly Americans? Because we know that like in nursing homes and in retirement places, number one, a lot of elderly Americans don't feel very much like eating. And then unfortunately, when they're given food, it is pretty empty and I was horrified when I watch people in retirement homes and nursing homes and see what they're being fed. Just like, how does anybody get well and stay strong and healthy in that?
For financial reasons. I mean, they're trying to make a profit on this, so they cut back on the quality of the food. That's how they do it.
It's so sad.
And people are paying a lot of money to be fed in those institutions, yet what they're getting on the dinner plate is not worth feeding anyone. Right.
It's pretty. It was pretty. Their food was pretty dead, pretty empty.
Right.
So naturally, they're going to be more susceptible to illness. their immune function is going to be quite a bit less.
Let me give you some great examples. I met this wonderful woman. She would go to the concerts I would go to with the Seattle Symphony, and her name was Gretchen. She used to live in Horizon House, 94 years old. Mind as sharp as a tack. And I asked Gretchen, what's the key to your longevity and your sharpness of mind? She said, my mother always taught me to cook fresh food. Nothing can. Everything was fresh.
Yeah.
This wonderful man who grew up was in my neighborhood. It was an inspiration named Paul Beckham. He was the first African American to be a teacher at one of our most prestigious integrated schools, Polytechnic Institute in Baltimore. And he was the father of two of my friends in my neighborhood, Paul Jr. and Stuart. And he went on to the Community College of Baltimore. He's highly respected everywhere he went. But he lived to be 95 years of age. He just died last year. He came to my mother's funeral a number of years ago and looked, strong and healthy and vital. And his wife, Blanche, is still alive and well and so forth. So I asked him, what's the key to your longevity and vitality? And they said the same thing. We always cook fresh food. Nothing canned, nothing processed.
Right. That's the old way of doing it.
That's always the old ways.
Yeah.
You always cook from scratch. I always cook from scratch.
Yeah.
I never prepare something. I make things from scratch. I get good recipes, and the internet's wonderful recipes nowadays.
Oh, it's fabulous.
Fabulous,
yes.
right.
Yes.
So there's no excuse now.
Yeah. As long as you can read,
right,
you should be able to cook.
And follow the instructions, and just do it. So you can care about every ingredient that goes into your mouth. You should be that attentive to it. Not be a fuss budget, but at least be to care enough that you're putting good quality into your body of a wide range of nutrients.
Right.
If you're eating whole organic plant foods, you're getting the fiber, you're getting all the antioxidants, the carotenes, the flavonoids we're going to talk about in a few minutes. All those things that will keep you vitally alive and well. And then if you need to supplement some extra things to keep your immune system optimal, then we can do that. But first and foremost, an organic, whole foods, plant-based diet.
Okay. And what about protein and the issue of malnutrition?
For most people in this country, that's not an issue unless they're really, really poor and all they can afford is the cheap, inexpensive starchy foods like ramen noodles and white rice and that kind of thing. This gets to be a problem. You see that in third world countries like in Asian countries. The children are stunted in their growth because all they have to eat is like rice and maybe a little piece of a vegetable, maybe a piece of something that looks like protein.
Same in Africa, though.
Same in Africa, right.
Yeah, where there's poverty.
Yeah, I was shocked. There was a documentary I saw a few years ago. This young British journalist went to Asia to explore the consumption of insects as a food source.
Oh.
He went to a village, and these two brothers, who were small for their age, had to hunt for their own lunch. And what they hunted for lunch was 2 tarantulas. They got tarantulas and white rice, and that's what they ate for lunch.
Oh my God.
They cooked the tarantulas. So that's happening in many parts of the world.
Oh boy, we do take
we take so much for granted
here in the United States.
No question.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
So this is an important issue, but in terms of protein, the thing I want to emphasize, what we mentioned before, is that we shouldn't be afraid of relying on plant-based materials as source of proteins and amino acids. With the right balance of these kinds of foods, that what I mentioned before, the beans, nuts, and seeds, and whole grains, and so forth, we go a long way, and even some dairy products, if you want to eat those, go a long way in covering all the essential amino acids in more than sufficient quantity to serve the needs of even elite athletes. That's been demonstrated already. So we can do this with plant-based foods.
Yay, okay. Now, sugar. The devil made me do it.
What can I say?
Oh my goodness.
Sugar has a karma behind it. It was the first crop used that was used and produced by slaves in the Caribbean. When slaves were first brought there in the 16th century, 1500s, after Columbus discovered the Western Hemisphere, the first crop they produced was sugar and its byproduct rum. And they sent that back to Europe, and the Europeans loved it. Because it was imported, only the wealthy could afford it, and they were sprinkling on everything. By the end of the 1500s, beginning of the 1600s, their physicians realized that sugar is poison. It was actually destroying their health. And I have this
Europe.
In Europe.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this one quotation from Dr. Duchesne. He was the physician to the King of France in 1606, and he said, "Under sugar's whiteness is an insidious blackness that destroys people's health." It looks bland on the outside. It's destructive on the inside, and that's what people deceive by sugar. They love the taste of it. It destroys everything,
Yeah.
and that's why it actually inhibits immune function. We were discussing beforehand. It actually decreases the activity of white blood cells to devour bacteria and other microbes by 50% when you're abusing sugar.
Yeah, and you were saying something about when you intake sugar, that decrease goes on for 5 hours
Yes.
after you.
It starts 30 minutes after you take it in and lasts for 5 hours after that. So for 5 hours, you're in a state of immune suppression because you went ballistic on sugar. That's
And
what
so then,
happens.
if you get exposed to somebody who's got something, you're more than likely to catch whatever.
You're more vulnerable.
You're more
That's
vulnerable.
it. We want the white blood cells at full capacity to destroy microbes. That's their job. That's what the white blood cells do. They invade. They go after the microbes that have invaded our bodies and destroy them. That's their job. And they should do it appropriately. They should be well distinguished between self and non-self. They should know distinguish those two. And that's what the T cells do. But if they're unable to go after microbes, then the microbes take over. And this is the big issue. I mean, one of the key things that we have to remember about, for example, antibiotics. Antibiotics do not kill bacteria. All they do is inhibit the replication of bacteria to allow the white blood cells to take over fast enough to destroy the bacteria. If the bacteria replicate too quickly, it overwhelms the immune system. White blood cells can't keep up. So the antibiotics keep the bacteria from multiplying, so the white blood cells can catch up with the numbers and destroy all of them. That's how antibiotics work.
Boy, that's
Does that make
amazing.
sense to you? Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yes.
but if the white blood cells have been inhibited by sugar intake, it makes it more difficult for them to catch up with the replication activity of the bacteria. So you must not do this to your white blood cells.
Mhm.
You must not put shackles on them and these extra weights on, like millstones around their necks. You must allow them the full freedom to function as they're supposed to function. But no one thinks about this.
Right. Right. Yes, exactly. And then we were talking about now what are mitogens?
Mines are things that stimulate white blood cell activity. And we're seeing that the response to mitogens is reduced if these white blood cells are exposed to sugar. They can't respond as vigorously as they otherwise could. So we want to keep that from happening. We want to keep the white blood cells on their toes and alert like sentries, on guard all the time. Something that should be said here. We're talking a lot about white blood cells. 70% of the white blood cells in your body right now, in a normal, healthy state, are located on the two major mucous membranes that are exposed to the outside of the body. You have the skin, which keeps the outside out. But the mucous membranes you expose to the exterior are the membranes of the respiratory. You breathe the outside stuff inside. So the white blood cells are on the mucous membranes of the respiratory system and the mucous membranes of the gastrointestinal tract. That's where we bring the outside inside. So 70% of your white blood cells are lined up there to make sure the bacteria don't come in and take over. That's why they're sitting there. And that's why we have things like vitamin A and zinc that we can talk about momentarily to help these white blood cells do their thing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it
That's
does.
where they're located, on the respiratory mucous membranes, and they must be alert and functioning and ready to deal with whatever comes their way.
Boy, that's amazing. Okay. And then, so how does vitamin C support the immune process in the body?
It actually works to sustain the vitality of the white blood cell. They take in the vitamin C as needed to deal with infections. It's amazing when a person comes down with infection, the vitamin C levels go down immediately. So they have to be sustained, and they're more than the so-called recommended daily allowances. The recommended daily allowances are a joke.
They are a joke.
I'll tell you right now.
Yeah.
Since I mentioned before that human beings are among the few mammals that can't make that conversion from blood sugar glucose into ascorbate, which is vitamin C, scientists have tried to estimate how much vitamin C a person should be taking to make up for that lack of production inside the body. It should be at least 4,000 milligrams a day.
And that's what I normally take. But and then remember, we have to tell people that you can't have more than 1,000 milligrams per hour because your body can't process it.
You can't really process it that
Right.
well.
So you have to take it numerous times.
We
during the
also
day.
should say that you should consult your own physicians, your own naturopathic
Yes.
doctors, your own holistic health practitioners before you do anything that we're talking about here. This is just what is in the literature, what is has been shown in clinical practice to be effective in helping people. But don't make any changes in your personal lifestyle choices and choices about supplementation until you consult your own physicians. Right?
Exactly. I always tell that to all my clients as well.
Exactly. But anyway,
and then I have another question, because I know when I had breast cancer, and last year I had to do a lot of intermittent fasting, and
right.
I did short and long periods of fasting to have the autophagy to eat the cells up. I did notice a heightened sense of wellness
Yes.
that occurred if I only ate one meal a day, or if I didn't have a meal for 36 hours.
I wasn't going to mention
whatever,
that, but it is known that if you do this brief fasting and so forth, it actually helps to get the immune system up and running. But you shouldn't starve people indefinitely.
No. Right.
But brief
right.
fasting can work because it gets all the stress of food intake out of the way, and the white blood cells can go in there and get their work done rapidly. But this should be a brief fasting period, like 24 hours or something like that.
Right, and so what is it? Starve a cold, feed a fever, feed a, or what?
I don't go by those rules.
I'm just like, what is that? But I do know that when I start to get sick, it's better for me to just have tea, broth, water, vitamins, and just let my body have quiet.
And sometimes green juices, green drinks,
right.
green smoothies, those things that will give you the nutrients that will keep the immune system up and running and so forth.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right. Now, obesity and its relationship to immune function.
This is a big deal because obesity actually suppresses immune function. It makes people much more susceptible to a wide range of infections just because they're carrying the extra weight. And then when they do get sick, they have much higher morbidity and mortality. They get sicker, and they're much more likely to die of the infections simply because they're obese. It puts such a stress on all organ systems, including the immune system, where people are carrying extra weight.
Right. Okay. And I would say that my experience with that is that it's true. Okay. What about people who do just one or two glasses of wine or an alcoholic beverage versus people who are alcoholics who do like excessive consumption?
Small amounts.
How does that impact your health?
It does. I mean, small amounts are okay, but something we learn as physicians, people tend to overestimate the good things they do and underestimate the bad things they do. You know that.
It's so convenient.
It's so convenient. So people say they're like one drink a day. It's probably two or three. You just can't believe what people say.
Right.
If people say they smoke half a pack of cigarettes a day, it's probably a whole pack, if not more.
Right.
So you have to be always adjusted with a grain of salt. What people are saying, but a small amount is not going to harm people that much. I mean, people need a little something.
Or a couple times a week or something.
A couple times a week. But don't make it a regular habit. If you can't go without a drink, you've got a drinking problem.
Right. And it becomes a chronic thing after a while, too.
Exactly.
It's really hard to kick the habit.
Right. But the key point is people must be willing to acknowledge the fact. I mean, I come from a family of addicts and alcoholics and so forth. You have to be willing to acknowledge the fact that you have problems with this particular substance. It's the relationship to the substance. I think Andrew Weil talked about from chocolate to morphine. It's the relationship to the substance that determines whether or not you're addicted to it. Can you do it without it?
Can you do without it?
Right. Or do you must have it, whether it's chocolate or whether it's morphine or whether it's a glass of wine. Must you have it all the time?
Right. And I do know that there are some people who are like, they have it. One time I had a stepson, and he was a darling young man, and unfortunately he was exposed to alcohol when he was 11 or 12 years old, and it became a lifelong problem for him, and he ended up dying like that. And he could not do without it, and when he did, it was only short periods of time because it was so addictive for him. Now we also want to talk about the compassion for people who have like emotional or mental illnesses or stresses that they're trying to cover those things up and make them try to go away.
It's self-medication. But it does. Alcohol does not work to solve problems. It cannot.
Right. Well, of course not. But people do use it for that.
One point I wanted to mention to you, and it's a very important point. If you have a genetic makeup that's attended towards addiction, the earlier you expose a child to that kind of substance, the worse it's going to be.
Right. Yeah, well, that was certainly the case.
There's certain Hollywood actor's name I will not mention, but his father introduced him to this mind-altering substance, and he became an addict thereafter.
Right.
So this is, you must not do that. You must not introduce these kinds of things too early in any child's upbringing.
Right. And then I do know from many people that I have known over the years through my personal practice, as well as people in my family, that depression went along with alcoholism.
Oh
What
yes,
is the reason for that?
people trying to get themselves
And
out of the depression state.
anxiety.
Yes, they want to get out of the state. Again, it's self-medication. It's
Um,
a way of escaping whatever they're suffering from, whether it's anxiety or depression. They want to get out of that state. They want to numb themselves
does
to
it make it worse, the
it. It
depression?
makes everything worse. I mean,
Worse.
it doesn't make anything better by if you've got a disturbance. I mean, a lot of depression comes with a disturbance in the biochemical and bioenergetic functionality of the brain. If it's already in a disturbed state, adding alcohol or any other mind-altering substance will make it even worse.
Right.
You're in a state of functional chaos among nerve cells. Why would adding a substance like alcohol or drug make that situation better?
Yeah.
You come right down to it.
Yeah, it won't.
You want to establish order where there's currently disorder.
Right.
So you must have put another form of disorder into that mix. It just makes it worse.
Yeah. Okay, now should we go to vitamins?
Yes.
Okay, how about vitamin A and carotene?
Yes, vitamin A. I mean, we mentioned before that you have these two major mucous membranes where all the exposure takes place. When you're exposed to things in the environment, it's going to come in through the mucous membranes on the respiratory system or the gastrointestinal system. That's how you're exposed to most of these microbes that we're talking about. So we want to maintain the integrity of those mucous membranes as much as possible. Vitamin A has a major role to play there. Now, there are not many sources of preformed vitamin A in nature. You get them in liver and so forth of animals that people have killed in the wild and so forth. That's where our hunter-gatherer ancestors got it. But there are many, many sources of carotenes found in the plant kingdom. All the dark orange, dark yellow plants that we mentioned before, even the red color lycopene tomatoes is a member of the carotene family. All of those are rich sources of the carotenes. You get them in. I'm thinking about these the dark red color in
Beets.
Beets is a flavonoid.
Oh, it's a flavonoid.
Yes,
Okay.
but you do get carotenes and the dark red in red peppers. I think it's true
Yeah.
because my mentor, the great teacher, Dr. Ed Masson, produced a product called Beta Plus. It's beta carotene. It's made from red peppers. So you get those dark red carotenes there. But these carotenes have a wide range of effects in being powerful antioxidants, and some of them are converted into vitamin A that gives you this protective effect of maintaining the integrity of the mucous membranes that are exposed to microbes. Zinc works in combination with the vitamin A to give you that kind of protection. In addition, what you want to do is also maintain a certain level of immune globulin A, IgA, which is the protective antibody that sits on the mucous membranes to protect you from things you might have been exposed to in the past. So that sits on the mucous membrane. So the IgA needs to be there, and of course the white blood cells are producing that. So the white blood cells there, the IgA is there, and the integrity of the structure of the tissue, all that has to be there to give you the protection from these things that are trying to take over the body, the bacteria and the viruses.
So, so it sounds like the carotenes and the vitamin A help to improve your thymus gland function.
The carotenes have the effect on the thymus gland, not so much vitamin A. While we're talking about vitamin A, if there's any possibility that a woman is pregnant, she must not take high dose of vitamin A. That is, vitamin A above 5,000 IUs a day. She must not do that because preformed vitamin A can cause birth defects. So if there's any possibility of being pregnant, I used to say risk of being pregnant, but my female students would jump all over me. Pregnancy is not a disease, therefore there's no risk involved. I'm being politically correct now.
Yeah.
But yeah, any possibility of being pregnant, do not take high dose of preformed vitamin A. You can take high dose of carotenes with no problem.
But you can do it like in food form, but not in like.
You can take supplemental too.
But I'm just saying, they wouldn't have to worry about it if they're pregnant if they get it in whole food form. Right?
Yes, and not even in supplements if it's in the form of carotene.
If it's in the carotene
form. If it's the vitamin A form, that's a problem. But unless you're taking a supplement, the only way to get a lot of vitamin A is to consume tons of liver, animal liver, like cow's liver and so forth. Or fish liver and so forth, which is a source of a lot of the supplements that we use.
Okay.
But yeah, so vitamin A has a major role protecting also there's some indication that can actually strip away the protective coating around viruses like the ones we're dealing with now. The ones that have those protective coatings, the vitamin A can strip away the protective coating and make the virus more susceptible to being destroyed by the immune system.
Ooh,
So
that's a good thing.
It's a good thing you have a coated virus, and this particular one we're dealing with is a coated virus.
It's a coated virus.
We need more research on that one, but that's one thing they can do.
Okay.
So and I wouldn't, and unless something happens, you want just a maintenance dose of the carotene and vitamin A. So you're talking about 5,000 for adults, 5,000 IUs of vitamin A, and you supplements are readily available. It's really inexpensive. Something else I wanted to say about vitamin A: it's a major micronutrient deficiency and a major cause of blindness around the world. Among poor people who are not getting any basic, green vegetables.
No green vegetables, right?
They're eating the starchy foods like
and processed food.
Right.
Bread, macaroni,
white rice, or I'm having a senior moment here.
McDonald's?
No, I'm thinking about third world countries. It's the alternative to grains. It's
no,
the starchy food they eat contains cyanoglycosides.
Oh my gosh. Wheat?
It's the root. It's the
it's taro root?
no, it's not taro root. That's what they eat in Polynesia. It's the other one. I can't think of the name of it. Oh, they consume it in New Guinea and also in the Caribbean and in African countries. Oh, it's that starchy.
You got
yes.
me. Tapioca. The tapioca root?
That may be a source of tapioca. What is it? It's cassava root.
Cassava, which is tapioca.
Yes, cassava root. Yeah,
yes.
The tapioca got me.
Yeah. Sorry.
Cassava root. It's a very common starch source in tropical regions. I know for a fact they consume it in Borneo and New Guinea.
In Brazil, they make wonderful Brazil bites.
Exactly. They've got it in the African countries. So these tropical regions, they grow cassava root as a starch source. But it's not going to give you what you need in terms of other nutrients. That's why vitamin A is such a big deal in terms of maintaining visual acuity in these people. Anyway, that was a side issue.
No, but that's good. So, so now we're doing vitamin C. It's antiviral and antibacterial.
It is. Vitamin C creates an environment that the bacteria and viruses don't like. There's an old group of medical doctors called the orthomolecular physicians. You've heard of them,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Orthomolecular, right molecule. These were people like Dr. Abram Hoff, who used to practice up on Vancouver Island. Dr. Carl Pfeiffer, MD, PhD, head of the Brain Bioresearch Center at Princeton, New Jersey. He wrote that wonderful book, Mental and Elemental Nutrients, a book on brain function and micronutrients like niacin to deal with schizophrenia.
And that was way back in the 60s or 70s.
70s, right? Yeah. He wrote that book back in the 70s. I had a copy of it. So these were the pioneering medical doctors who were using nutrients as pharmaceutical agents. And their old rule of thumb is if you have a major condition like an infection going on and so forth, you load up with vitamin C to give yourself time to think about what to do next. Because vitamin C calmed everything down.
Right, yeah.
It creates an environment that bacteria and viruses do not like. They can't do their work in an environment that's rich with vitamin C.
Yeah, so it's kind of like your front, like the army at the very front, right? The frontline army.
Yes, as a front line, shuts things down temporarily.
Okay.
Even, I think when you see it even inhibits the viruses from attaching themselves to cell membranes because the vitamin C molecules block the linkage between the antigen sitting on the cell membrane and this tentacle that's reaching out from the viral particle. So there's a wide range of things that it does. Also, the white blood cells are energized by vitamin C. They like it, they absorb it, they do well with it. The more sugar you have running around, the less vitamin C can get into the white blood cells, and that causes a major problem for them. So it's really such an important thing. In addition, it helps to maintain the integrity of tissue everywhere, the ground substance that holds cells together. So when you want to protect the integrity of the tissue, even the tissue in the respiratory mucous membranes, the vitamin C must be there in sufficient quantity.
So then, when you have a chronic disease and vitamin C and chronic stress, you probably will lose the levels of vitamin C more easily, right? Or do you need to just take extra?
You take an increased dose as you need it. I mean,
and you work with your doctor to figure it out.
Biology, you work with your doctor to figure it out. Linus Pauling was taking 10,000 milligrams a day.
I know, that was amazing.
He was convinced that it gave him an additional 20 years of life. Instead of dying at 72, he died at 92. And he had some major health problems that were helped by that vitamin C. I won't go into all the details now.
Right,
But he was convinced the vitamin C helped give him 20 extra years of life.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
All right, now,
What's the next one?
all right, how about, oh, it says here also something about vitamin C helping T cell activation.
Yes, I was talking about it activates the white blood cells. To do
Oh,
what they're
okay, so
supposed
that's
to
the
do.
T
Right.
cells.
Right.
Okay.
But again, remember this balance between vitamin C and sugar, blood glucose. As the sugar becomes excessive, the vitamin C influence is decreased. They actually compete with each other. That's why if you're going through any kind of infectious process, keep the refined sugar intake under control. Starches don't do this as much, but the refined sugar does.
Refined sugar. Okay, and refined starches probably more so than
Yes, the high
than whole
glycemic
grains,
index,
right?
right?
Right,
The high
right.
glycemic index starches.
So things that are white and
Yes,
processed
right.
would be in that category. So your
White
regular
bread,
spaghetti,
ordinary
white
cornflakes,
bread,
you know,
yes,
yes, all that.
exactly. So if you go to whole grain spaghetti and quinoa noodles and
Right.
things, that's a totally different
Things
thing.
have
Yeah.
a lower glycemic index. That is, the lower rate at which blood sugar increases after you take in that food.
Right. Now, what about zinc? I do know myself, I got a little bit of a cold in the beginning of the COVID thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I upped my zinc and my vitamin A and my vitamin D and my vitamin C. And within 2 days, it was gone. And then I realized that this, we're going to have this constant exposure.
Right.
I just, up leveled for a week, all those. And then I just up leveled every few days. The dosages of those things are just kind of playing with my body. And I managed to stay away from colds and flus and kept my immune system up. And what a difference that made.
This zinc, depending on the microbe, especially viral particles, the zinc can have an influence in keeping those microbes from being able to multiply as easily. We know that relative to, like, the common cold. They've actually, in the studies, you reduce the length of common cold by 7 days by using zinc lozenges.
Just by using it, because there's not much zinc in those lozenges.
About 30 milligrams.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And there's a point I want to make here, too. If you take too much zinc for a long period of time, you can throw other minerals out of balance, like copper. So if you're going to play the zinc game, and the recommendation for the thing like sore throats is 1 lozenge every 2 waking hours. But you're going to end up taking in a lot of zinc. So the basic recommendation is you don't want to take in more than 150 milligrams a day of zinc for more than a week. Otherwise, you're going to throw other minerals out of balance. Right. So be careful with zinc. You use it only as you need to.
Yeah, and one of the things that you and I talked about before also was the positive impact of zinc on the thymus gland, that it actually helps to initiate the production of more
the thymic
hormones to get your immune system going.
The thymus gland is the finishing school for the educated white blood cells. The educated white blood cells are the T cells. The T comes from the word thymus. So the T cells are, and what's the education goes on here? The T cells have to be taught to distinguish self from non-self. That's the whole purpose of thymus gland. Teach the T cells to train the other white blood cells. This is self. You don't attack this. This is non-self. This is what you destroy. So the presenter cell, the macrophages and other cells present these things they grabbed onto running around the body to the T helper cell. The T helper cell says, yes, this is self. Don't damage this. Oh, this is non-self. Destroy this. So that the T helper cells have to be educated. They're the educated. I call it white blood cell finishing school.
It's great.
Yeah, and that's what the thymus gland does. It trains the T cells to distinguish self from non-self, and so we need to sustain that function. That's why carotenes help to sustain that function, and zinc helps sustain that function.
And then you and I, when we talked earlier, you said also that the relationship between zinc and vitamin A was that they work synergistically together.
They do, in terms of supporting the respiratory and GI tract mucous membranes. They work well together. But in the thymus gland, I think it's a very important thing to understand. One of the most remarkable things, I worked with a lot of HIV patients back in the 80s. One of the first things that was noticed on autopsies of HIV patients in the late 70s, early 80s, as was complete involution of the thymus gland. It just shrank up.
Oh my God.
That was the most remarkable thing on autopsy. I mean, the gland responsible for immune function was completely destroyed. That was the first thing that was noticed.
No wonder they couldn't get well.
Of course. Of course.
It was totally destroyed.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
See, for years it was assumed by the medical profession the thymus gland naturally involuted because it was no longer needed. No, what they were seeing was patients in hospitals who were sick because the thymus glands weren't functioning.
Right.
And they never realized that at the time.
Right. Oh, wow. This is
The thymus
amazing.
gland should be functioning well throughout your life. If it's not, your immune system is impaired.
Okay, and then what about the relationship of is it vitamin A with Crohn's disease, diabetes for children, multiple sclerosis, asthma, and things like that?
Which vitamin are you talking about?
It's vitamin D.
Vitamin D. You jumped ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just wondering about that.
Yeah, vitamin D is not really a vitamin. Vitamin D is a hormone
Oh,
in the same family as the steroid hormones, estrogens, progesterone, and testosterone. All these are cholesterol-based hormones. Now we know that these hormones, for example, estrogens are coming out of the ovaries, estrogen and progesterone, involved in the whole birthing cycle, menstruation for women. And of course, testosterone is coming out of the testicles for men. But all of these are steroid, that is cholesterol-based hormones. So it's based on the cholesterol molecule. The same thing is true of vitamin D. It's really a steroid cholesterol-based hormone. Now, it was originally designed for people to generate the active form by skin exposure to sunlight, especially
right.
sunlight near the equator where the UV radiation will activate the vitamin D. Um, if you can't do that, you have to get it from dietary sources. I was thinking about this just today. I mean, the only reason our wonderful European cousins from the Nordic regions of Europe were able to survive, they could get the vitamin D out of the fish
Right.
they were eating. Right. The fish saved them. Without that, they couldn't do it.
Yeah, because there were too many dark days. And
too many dark days, and too far away from the equator for the UV light to even have an effect. I mean, even where we are near the 49th parallel, we're so far away from the equator. Even if you expose yourself to sunlight in the summertime as a light-skinned person, you're not going to generate enough vitamin D to make a real difference.
Wow.
People don't realize that. That's why this vitamin D issue is so underappreciated. Dr. Vieth of Vieth, Vieth. I don't know if he spells it Vieth or pronounces it Vieth or Vieth. He was the main expert, I think he's Canadian, on the board that determined the recommended daily allowances for vitamins. He was saying for years that it was really underappreciated what vitamin D does, and that recommendation of 400 IUs a day was woefully inadequate.
And so, what does he recommend?
We're up to whatever it takes for you to absorb, so you get like 15 nanograms per deciliter in the bloodstream. So it has to be done by blood test.
To know exactly what you need.
Because some people store better than others.
Got it.
It was originally designed for
work with your
skin.
doctor again.
Right, work with your doctor, right. But anyway, vitamin D is a regulator of genes. That's what these hormones actually regulate genes. It regulates at least 200 different gene systems. And one of these includes the issue around regulation of the immune system. The immune system being overactive or underactive. For example, it's involved in overactive immune systems that give rise to autoimmune diseases like lupus, multiple sclerosis, and that kind of thing, Crohn's disease.
So that's a lack of vitamin D.
Right, vitamin D at the right time of life.
At the right time
let me give you an example. This is mind blowing. I hope we're not going overtime on this.
No, we're okay.
This is mind blowing.
Let me just double check the time. Yeah,
there's a guy named Tom Malter. He's a nutritionist up in Bellingham. He's read 300 studies on vitamin D nutrition when it became a big issue a few years ago. According to that literature, if you spend the first 10 years of your life, from the time you're born to age 10, living in a tropical region where you're exposed to bright tropical sun day in and day out, you can go anywhere else in the world for the rest of your life and have a 50% lower risk of cancer of any kind.
Wow, that's amazing.
Because the vitamin D regulates the activity of the immune system, so it's more aggressively going after cancer cells. You will also have a lower risk of autoimmune conditions like the ones we mentioned. MS and lupus and so forth, if the immune system is regulated. So the regulation of the immune system is essential here. Now, there's another point I want to make too, and this is in the context of this particular pandemic we're dealing with. People are drowning in their own fluids. This was also going on back in 1918. And one of the things that people need to realize, and now we've learned that vitamin D goes a long way in keeping us from getting into those cytokine storm situations where the blood vessels open up and release all this fluid into the lungs, and people end up drowning in their own fluids. You can go a long way in reducing that excess response from the immune system by having vitamin D on board beforehand, before exposure to the microbe.
Wow. So the last mineral we want to do today is selenium.
Selenium, and I brought up selenium. It's support for the immune system, but I brought selenium because I discovered something 10 or 15 years ago that's quite remarkable, and I just confirmed it a few weeks ago when this pandemic first came out. I was advising a friend of mine. I wanted to check to see if the literature is still saying the same thing, and it is. I had learned from a colleague, in fact, Rick Leva, who was the founder and owner of Vital Nutrients in Middletown, Connecticut, an excellent vitamin supplement company. He brought to my attention, he wanted me to look at an article written by a woman named Margaret Raymond, a nutritionist well known in Great Britain, about the relationship between selenium literature and the permission or the permitting of viruses to become more virulent. So I found that article, and then subsequently I went to a symposium in Little Rock, Arkansas, and at the symposium was this expert in selenium from the University of Texas. So I posed a question to him, and he confirmed it. And the point is this. We know from laboratory studies, if a laboratory animal like a mouse or a rat is selenium deficient, and you expose that mouse to a particular viral pathogen, whatever the virus is, it could be influenza, whatever it is, that animal's body, by being selenium deficient, will permit the virus to become more virulent. It will mutate into more virulent strain simply because the animal was selenium deficient.
Wow. So that would be same true for humans.
For human beings.
Yeah.
And think about how many human beings, we mentioned the elderly, we mentioned teenagers who live on junk food diets, and we mentioned crops grown on soil that's selenium deficient, where a lot of people are selenium deficient throughout the world. Right. So that permits their bodies to turn viruses that are one level of virulence into a higher level of virulence simply by being selenium deficient.
Amazing. Okay, so we're going to end this with what you kind of recommend for adults.
Let's go through some of these. Now, these are from the textbook of Naturopath. Again, work with your own physician, your own naturopathic doctor, holistic health practitioner to work out what's best for your situation.
Right. So it says high potency multiple vitamin and mineral formulas.
Right, exactly. Those are just to get a basic underlying foundation level of the micronutrients that support the immune system.
Okay. Recommendation of vitamin C when you're exposed, is this an exposure or just supplemental dosing of 500 to 1,000 milligrams every 2 hours?
That's what you do when you're exposed to something.
Okay.
500 to 1,000 milligrams every 2 hours. Yes, right.
Yeah, right.
The basic day-to-day dose is like I mentioned, like 1,000 milligrams 4 times a day.
Got it. Okay.
But you go up when you expose to some kind of microbe to actually generate like a vitamin C barrier to keep the microbe from taking things over.
And then the bioflavonoids.
The flavonoid compounds help the vitamin C go from the bloodstream into the tissues much more efficiently. Now you got the so-called citrus bioflavonoids, or rutin and asparaginase, so they're helpful. But many of the other flavonoid compounds, and my favorites are the dark purple, blue flavonoids you find in dark cherries, blueberries, blackberries, boysenberries.
Right, elderberries.
Elderberries, wonderful for the immune system.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Those flavonoids help to get the vitamin C into the cells where the vitamin C will do its work.
Yay, and then vitamin A, 2,500 IUs a day.
2,500 to 5,000 IUs a day for the average
carotene.
Carotenes, you can go much higher than that. Again, work with your own practitioner about that. And again, I say, if there's any risk, any possibility of being pregnant, do not go beyond 5,000 IUs a day of preformed vitamin A.
So that would be a non-food source, a supplemental source.
A supplemental source.
Right.
And those sources will be coming from fish oil and that kind of thing.
Awesome. And then supplemental dosing of vitamin D.
Vitamin D. And this is where you have to work with your own physician.
Because everybody's different.
Everyone's different. People absorb vitamin D at different rates because we were designed to get vitamin D from sun exposure. But different people, depending on their biological makeup, will absorb vitamin D at different rates of efficiency. We have a basic recommendation, 2,000 IUs is a place to start. But again, work with your physician to find out what intake you need to maintain daily so you get your blood levels up to something like 50 nanograms per deciliter, which will give you the protection for relative to bone mineral density, protection relative to immune function. It's where we like to have people stay with vitamin D supplementation.
Okay, and then zinc, a maximum of 30 milligrams per day.
30 milligrams a day is a basic intake dose, and we're talking about the picolinate form, picolinate, picolinate, zinc picolinate. 30 milligrams of elemental zinc. That's a basic maintenance dose. If you're going to be using zinc lozenges, of course, you're going to be taking more of that on a regular basis. But as I recommended before, Do not take any more than 150 milligrams a day of zinc for more than a week. Otherwise, you may throw other minerals out of balance, in particular copper.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Wow. This
Was that too
so
much?
interesting. No, I hope not.
Was that over people's heads? I hope it was straightforward.
Let us know. You can make a comment on my Facebook page at One Illumined Heart. You can also write me, and you can also reference Dr. Herb Joiner Bey here. If you have questions about what has been said today, at info@One Illumined Heart. And we thank you all for listening, and many blessings to all of you beautiful people out there. Keep yourself strong and healthy. Get some fresh air, and take your vitamins, and make sure you eat well. God bless and take care, and thank you, Dr. Bey, for being here with us today.
Thank you for the invitation. My pleasure.
All right.